How many of you guys like turn-based games? You know, the old Final Fantasy Tactics games? If so, I think I got a game for you guys. Let's get on with the review. What's going on, you guys? Lord Addict here, coming at you for another review. Today we're going to be reviewing the Diofield Chronicles. I participated with this review on the Xbox Series X, and I got a lot of things to say about this. You guys know from looking at these type of reviews that I've done that I have reviewed a good amount of turn-based games, those old type of Final Fantasy Tactics, and really anything turn-based in general. So when I saw this come up there, man, you guys know I had to try, man, and I got a review code. Shout out to Square Enix. You know, I want to put that out there. They did provide me this review code, but you guys know, regardless who gives me a review code, I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion. This game was developed by, you guys know, I'm about to butcher this name. It is Lacrosse or Lacrosse. I don't know. I'm not particularly sure. You guys can Google it if you want to look more at the pronunciation of it. It was published by Square Enix. And, you know, I got a lot to say about this. The first thing I really want to go over is just the performance of this game. I didn't really see anything drastically wrong with the performance on this. I did play this on the Xbox Series X, so I have pretty much one of the best things to play any type of game on. Now, I'm sure it plays good on PC. I think this is on the Switch, so don't quote me on the Switch. You guys need to go ahead and Google what platform you guys are looking at this on so you can get a good detail on whether or not this game runs pretty good. As far as the performance though, I didn't really have too many hiccups. Now, occasionally when you would do summons and stuff, sometimes there would be some frame rate losses, but for the most part, this game ran pretty brotherly smooth the entire game. Now, one thing that I will bring out is, I know people get upset when I say this, and I know that I do feel entitled when I say this, but I can't help it. There's not a lot of this game that's voice acted. Now, there is a good amount that's voice acted. It's just when you do anything side related or you do any kind of side missions, anything that's not the base story or the main story of this, kind of like canon and anime, it's all gonna be just random scribbles when you have to actually read the text on the screen. Now, I know that, you know, for the most part, a good portion of the game has voice acting. It just, I feel like we're getting to the point where this is a $60 game, and you got to keep that in mind, and the game isn't even voice acted. You know, a lot of it you do have to read. It's just side missions. If you do just the main story, you'll be fine. You won't have to really deal with anything that's not being read to you. Now, I'm not saying that I can't read, but I do feel like when you raise that price, you do have more expectations on what you're going to experience in terms of, you know, AA to AAA quality game. But I do feel like that price is what makes it really feel like this should have been voice acted the entire game. Another huge thing that I didn't like about Diofield and a lot of other games, you know, Dead by Daylight, I'm pretty sure it does this unless they fixed it since the last time I played it. I don't like when PC games are converted over to a console without abandoning completely the mouse type of format where you can actually hover over it. I don't want to go on the parts of the screen where I can't actually click buttons. It makes sense for a mouse because a mouse can actually go over a screen, but when you actually have to like manually put the cursor on the actual tile that you want to push play or to go to anything relevant on there. Now, they do have a thing to where once you're over it, you can press down or go to the one below it. It's just like, look, man, if you guys make a console port of a PC centric game, this game would work a lot better on PC. Just go ahead and give me the actual port. Don't sit there and just get it running on the console. I want it to actually feel like it's a console port. So that's why you got to make the infrastructure and the UI run like a console game. That's some nitpicking for the most part. It didn't really bother my experience with it. It was just really annoying. Now, when it comes to the story, this story, okay, first off, the story takes place following 3 life friends as they pick up arms as hired mercenaries. Now, this is one of those things where you look at like Final Fantasy Tactics, you know, Bravery Default, well, maybe not Bravery Default as much, but, you know, look at like Triangle Strategy. This game's stories took place pretty much the majority of it in a war. Now, I've liked these type of games in wars. I feel like the story really puts a lot of tension on it, but this particular game, I feel like really put politics front and center. Now, that's not a bad thing. I've played plenty of these type of games that have politics in the center of it, but it's something that usually happens in the world and it's not shoved in your face. I do feel like the story of this game was too political, and I don't mind political structured games, but it's like, look, like clearly the focus of this game is mainly set place in gameplay. You know, they want you to move around the map. They want you to actually strategically play this game from like a turn-based style type of game. Now, is it entirely turn-based? No, but we'll get more of that into the gameplay. But I do feel like if they would have took a little bit more of a what's going on in the war perspective on this and not what's going on with who's going to ascend to who, what nation's fighting with what other nation. Another issue I didn't like with this game is when it comes to the story, they didn't really give a whole lot of building up to the world before the war starts in this game. For instance, triangle strategy, I just played that. There's a good amount of that beginning of that game where they're building up nations, they're building up people, they're showing you key characters that you might or may not see further on in the game. This game, it's pretty much like, okay, you do this mission, they do the tutorial, they show you some of the people in this game, and they're like, okay, now you're doing this war, you're in this war. So when certain of these people popped up and we were fighting certain nations, I didn't really feel attached to them. I'm like, okay, I don't know who you are. I felt like if they would have did a better job explaining the world and building this world at the beginning of the game, then let you go into the war, then it would have made more sense and I would have actually been more emotionally attached to some of these people instead of just killing people I didn't really have any type of recollection to who they were at all. Another thing I'll actually say about this game is it's kind of weird how they do battles on here. Now, I'm not going to say that it was horrible or anything. I'm not going to say that it ruined my experience, but when you actually fight people in Diofield, they just randomly pop up. Like, it's not like they're coming in from the side of the map or they're being flown in. Now, some do have a little bit of lore why they come in there. Like, there was a couple battles at the end where people were literally flying in from above you, so that made more sense. But the majority of this game is you clear off a field and then some random sets of enemies appear and then you clear off that field and then the map ends. Feel like they could have did a lot more with this gameplay that they have in this game, where they could have did a lot more building on units and not just bam, it's all over. And you know, considering the summons by itself. Now, for those of you that don't know, there are summons in this game, and this game kind of takes a lot of the lore from Final Fantasy. There's Bahamut in it, that is in the demo. I apologize if that's spoiling it for some of you, but I feel like the summon system works well, but they didn't do anything in terms of lore-wise building on these summons. Now, I'm not saying I want anything drastic, but it would have been nice, like Final Fantasy 15, when you're playing that game, they're building these summons with you. Now, I don't even think that game did a good job building summons, but I do feel like there was a place for the summons in the world. On here, it just feels like an afterthought, something that they put in the game to maybe make it a little bit easier for a casual audience. I feel like, you know, these are iconic characters, especially Bahamut. Bahamut, it's one of the most iconic Final Fantasy summons in history compared to something like Ifrit or Shiva. So it's just like, you could have did a little bit more building these summons. Maybe you fight them. There's a bunch of different things you could have done, and I felt like they just lacked it there. Another thing that's kind of weird how they did things in here is just the mission structure in general. You'll be going through the hub world, which is pretty much your base, and the missions is literally just talking to people. Now, cool, I do think it brings a little balance to the force a little bit in terms of money wise, because these missions are easy to do. You just talk to people, so you get that money quick. But to me, it's like, come on, man, like, actually have some substance behind some of these missions. Now, some of them do. You'll talk to some, then they'll start another actual mission where there's actually gameplay involved. But I would say maybe 80-88% of the missions in this game is just talking to people. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe 70-30. Literally just talking to people. You talk to this person, you talk to that person. They give you some gold, maybe a little bit of experience, put some stuff on your clan points, and then that's pretty much how it is. Now, you know, the faction in this game, they actually do have a pretty decent leveling up system. For instance, you know, you get some a cook in your team that will actually level up the way they cook, which will give you perks in battle. You actually have mercenaries and merchant missions where you can actually get better merchant stuff, and you can get better resource for, you know, building weapons, skill points, and, you know, upgrading the actual summons in the game that they could have did a little bit better. So they have a lot of things to actually get you enticed, and they have a good reward system in this game. It's just, I felt like they had a great foundation, and I don't even think they built the house wrong. It's just, you could have picked a better layout for the house. It's still fun, it's still enjoyable, and I'm not even saying the story's bad. I think the story's passable, and like I said, I think they maybe centered it a little bit too much around political stuff in general, so you couldn't really experience the war that you're actually in. But I do think that they went out and accomplished what they wanted to do, and I have to get them kudos for that. It's like I said, the story could have did a little bit better to me, and there's a lot of things they could have done in terms of structuring the stories that could have did better as well. But you know, when it comes to gameplay, I got a lot to talk about when it comes to the gameplay, because the gameplay on this game is actually pretty addicting. And what I mean by addicting is like, look, this isn't the exact type of style that you would play from a Final Fantasy Tactics or a Bravery Default. It is a little bit, you know, turn-based. It's a little bit more freestyle than your traditional turn-based, but I do think that this is a good middle ground. I would prefer the Bravery Default and the Final Fantasy Tactics gameplay, but this was a good second place going to that. There's skill trees to pretty much anything you could think of. They actually have individual unit skill trees. Now, it is a little bit less in depth than the actual skill tree on the weapons, but I do think it's a nice little touch to give people a little bit more incentive to actually grind out those sections. You get those SP points for actually leveling up your character, and then you get skill tree points, and those are known as SP. Now, let me explain to you a little bit on the Diofield Chronicle and how they like to do stuff in this game. The SP is something that you get for unique circumstances that you get during the mission. It's kind of like bonus content that you get for doing the mission in a certain way. The majority of the time, if not every bonus content that you get on missions, is to either A, keep everyone alive and never have anyone fall, or B, do it in a certain time limit. Now, for the most part, you want to generally do both. You don't want anyone dying, and you don't want anyone to take so long that you don't get that bonus time limit that you also get. Now, you'll get the material to make weapons, and you'll also get the skill points required to level up the actual skills that are required for that weapon. Now, everyone has different things. Now, it's not like one of the class systems. I do prefer the class system. I will come out there openly on that. I don't mind this system. I think it was done very well in terms of, you know, balancing out your actual individual skill points with the weapon skills and building the weapon. I think it worked out pretty well, and I think this is a decent system, but I still prefer the job system because I want to be able to pick and modify who I want and to do what I want them to do. I want to be able to build a warrior that has some form of skills related to like a time mage where you can have auto haste on. Now, none of that was present in this game, and I don't think that I'm going to really dock them for not doing something another game does, but I do feel like what they did here is a solid foundation, and I have to respect them for it because the game is fun. One thing I can really enjoy what they've done with this combat is they've actually give you the ability to replay old missions to level up. And what I mean level up is you can go with these bonus requirements on these older missions. Let's say you messed them up, because the crazy part about this game is those skill points. Let's say you never do it in a certain time limit, or people are always dying. You're never getting these skill points unless you level up the actual entirety of your clan to get a huge sizable ones every time you level up. So that's the only time you're going to be leveling them up. So this game actually is very hard, and if you don't play the game wants you to play it. So if you don't do these things, and I don't think they do a good job explaining how you get these SP, or at least additional XPs if you do these certain missions in a certain way, and they could have did a little bit better on that. I also feel like there are certain, you know, life change qualities that they should have done here. Now, let me explain to you how the actual unit system is set up. So you got primary units and you got secondary units. The cool thing about it is you can mix and match the primary and secondary. Pretty much the primary is going to be the person that's on the field at all times, and you want that secondary to complement that primary unit. So if you got it like a flying unit, you want that secondary unit to complement the attacks that primary unit can do. So let's say that you have a unit that does more damage if there's some type of ill buff debuff on an opponent, like stun. So you want that secondary unit to be able to actually do a stun ability, so when you do that first attack, you're able to do even more damage. That's the cool thing. Once you get to a point, you end up having what you can have up to, I believe, 4 characters. I can't remember exactly at this point. 4 characters on the field at once. They each have 2 people, so you know you have 8 people. And once you get more than 8, they don't level up those other players as much, and I don't think they really level them up any. I do feel like these type of games, if you really want to give diversity in terms of giving options to the player, they should do auto leveling up to the current levels of the primary party that you're using. For instance, if I'm using these 8 people and I have another 5 people that's never leveling up, 9 times out of 10 I'm never going to even remotely try to use them, especially once you get close to the end of the game and everyone that you normally use is 10-15 levels higher than the people that you don't use. Why would you ever try to use those? So I do think that they could have did a little bit of quality life changes where it just auto levels them to whatever level your current people are. I get it, that might make the game a little bit easy. It is what it is. I feel like I would rather enjoy being more, having more options as far as characters than the game being easy or not easy. I do think the AI in this game is kind of dumb. Like, you can literally be fighting people in one place and then the people almost in the next room can't hear you. Sometimes they'll be a couple feet apart from each other and they don't hear you. Now, I'm not saying that it took away from my experience a lot. I think it was funny more than anything, because some of these actual missions are kind of challenging if you don't actually level up these characters the way you need to level them up and play them a very good skill wise. Now, I'm not going to say it's like like Dark Souls type of skill wise, but it is going to frustrate you sometimes when you're coming very close to beating an actual mission and then some jackass shows up out of nowhere, and guess what they do? They make it to where you actually lose the entire thing because they killed one thing that was on the field that you were supposed to protect. And they will actually put certain units on the left of the map, which is encouraging you to go fight them on the left of the map, but they're actually setting up the right of the map to come and take out that unit. The game kind of designs a way around the way they think that you're going to be playing, the way that they actually put the units on the field. So I actually enjoy the fact that this game isn't exactly easy. Now, I'm not going to say it's exactly hard either, but I think it's a good balance. Now, obviously, that AI needs to improve. If they can do little updates to make the AI a little bit better, bravo to that. Now, let's talk about the overall game in general. Now, it's like I said, it's a worth $60 game. Now, is this worth $60? I don't know. I feel like if you like these type of games, it's definitely worth $60. I don't think I would pay $60. I think $40 is a better price point for this type of game. Now, if you want to play this because you love these style games, definitely go out and, support that thing. But if you looking to save a little bit of bucks and you don't know if you should spend this on something, maybe God of War that's coming out in a couple weeks, I think maybe God of War would probably be better money spent. Now, like I said, if you like these type of games, don't let me divert you to going and getting it. Go buy that game. We are coming close up to October, November-ish. We're going to be having Black Friday here soon. This game will probably be on a discount then. I do think this game is worth $60 to the people that like these type of style games. Now, it's not going to, anyone that was curious of this kind of genre, this game is not going to get you in it. Maybe it'll be a little bit better than like something like Tactics, because it does have a little bit more free flow and it's not exactly turn-based. So, I think it's overall good for the opening person. I just don't know if the $60 title is going to be worth you jumping in this brand. They do have some big names such as Muhammad in here, but it's nothing serious where if you don't know what's going on, you wouldn't even know what that dragon's name is. But anyway, when it comes to this game, like I said, if you like these type of games, definitely worth $60. If you don't, definitely not. And if you're on the fence, you should probably wait as well. The performance on this game was good. I think the story was okay. It could have been a lot better if they wouldn't have focused so much on the politics of the game. And the gameplay is definitely a very good time with this. And I think the majority of people, if you like these type of any remote type of turn-based games, you're going to like this game. But anyway, that is the review for you guys. Definitely hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. You can always subscribe to this channel. We do weekly podcasts, one on every Sunday at 1 1 p.m. known as the Iron Lords podcast. And we do another podcast, well, I do another podcast every Wednesday at 5 p.m. known as The Addict Show. And we do reviews on here, as you could tell. But yeah, that's it. That's my review on the Diofield Chronicle. I actually felt like this was a pretty solid experience. I enjoyed it. Shout out once again to Square Enix for providing us with the review code. And until the next review, this is Lord Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.